me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
So we created a 14-part virtual workshop series that focuses on using AI for a variety of tasks, for recreation programming, for human resources, for customer service, for data analytics, how to use various AI tools. And we cover a wide range of tools. We cover ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, Deep Perplexity, video tools like HeyGen and Synthesia, and video. I mean, so we cover a wide array, right? We don't just stick with, it's not just ChatGPT.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. We shine a light on the behind-the-scenes heroes who keep our parks vibrant and our communities connected. Today's guest is Jason Peters, a powerhouse in government tech and the founder of GovTech Innovators. With over 20 years in the field, Jason is now focused on using AI to supercharge public service. He says AI isn't here to replace people. It's a modern-day tractor, helping us get 3 to 4 times more done. From writing program descriptions and building efficient sports schedules to instant customer service and better special needs programming, Jason's mission is clear: empower parks and rec teams with smart, practical tools. And he's doing it all while making sure communities stay safe from AI risks through strong policies and training. This is the future of parks and recreation, and Jason's helping lead the charge. Tune in now for this inspiring conversation on the Daily Parks and Rec Show. All right, we are live. Back. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show, Leaders in Parks and Rec, our 12 noon show, Monday through Thursday. I have a special guest for y'all. This is a hot topic, probably the hottest topic to hit planet Earth ever, I would think. And that is intelligence that is non-human coming into our workspace and taking, I don't want to say taking hours. I kind of look at it as, and I'd love to get Jason's opinion on this, but I kind of look at it as the farmer looking at the tractor and comparing it to his mule and saying, okay, I think I'm going to figure out how to work this tractor and get a lot more done. But Jason has dedicated his life now to AI and how it connects with the government. And so welcome to the show, Jason. How are you doing?
Thanks, Craig. I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Yeah, so super hot topic. Maybe take us back to how you, I guess it can't be long that we've been in AI because it's just kind of, I guess, emerged. So how did you get involved with AI?
Yeah, so I've worked in government technology for over 20 years now, and last 10 years or so, I've been, before starting GovTech rather, I was implementing enterprise grants management systems for state departments across the country. And then I was actually building products for that same company for the local government market. And so I was looking at AI heavily from the perspective initially just of integrating it into my products. But just as I continued to watch AI grow, I thought, this is really this is bigger than the internet. This is the biggest opportunity of our lifetime. I'm going to seize this, So I started GovTech to help park and rec departments implement AI. And I worked on, the building the business while working a full-time job for the first kind of year and a half, technically started in 2023. And I made the leap in November of 24, and I've been full-time with GovTech since then. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. I love it.
Fantastic. Well, maybe we can just start by helping us to reframe it in a little more. I mean, look, if the robots are going to come for us and kill us all, then okay, that's just the way it is. But what are the good scenarios? With that, we can talk about how this is just a very powerful tool that can help you do more of the work you're doing.
Yeah, so that's really our focus is you're right. There are some risks with AI or concerns. I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody about this. He's like, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, it's going to be terrible. Right. But that side of it, I hope that doesn't happen, right? That could go a lot of different ways. But on the good side of things, I mean, my goodness, right now, like a rec programmer can go out to ChatGPT for free and start using it to write their program descriptions. They can load their schedule information and start using ChatGPT to put together their sports schedule or their tournament schedule. Now it's not perfect, right? It has its issues. It hallucinates. It gives you inaccurate responses sometimes. So you have to understand that and kind of validate those responses. But the reality is that it can allow you and enable you to do so much more than what you could do without it. And so for myself, I started GovTech, and I run the company solo for the most part. I have a few consultants I work with. I have a couple senior developers I work with who help me build my agents. And I've got Sam Lutt. He's a park and rec professional here in Southeast Michigan. He and I kind of go around the country and present on AI at state conferences. So, there's a lot of, sorry, I just completely lost my.
Well, I want you to go deeper on something you just said. A lot of times when people see new technology, they're like, "Oh, I saw it. It didn't do it," and they point out all its blemishes, and then they just walk away as if, "Yeah, that'll never replace whatever." But I think the problem with spot checking is until you check it, come back a month later, check it, come back a month later, check it, you don't understand its progression and how quickly it's eliminating a lot of those early weaknesses. And I think that's what people miss when it comes to AI is the rate of improvement. And that often we see a new tech and we just dismiss it because it's not perfectly human on day one, not realizing a week ago it wasn't even alive. Today it's like a toddler. Tomorrow it's a high schooler. Next day it's PhD. Next it's smarter than anything on earth.
Yeah, and it's definitely gotten better a lot faster. I mean, when ChatGPT first came out, I remember trying to use it for several tasks, and I would not get the responses I needed. I would not find it to be useful at the time, so I just quit using it. Say, this is junk. Like, why is this such a big deal? But I come back to it an hour later because I realized if I could just figure out how to get it to work, it would save me so much time.
Yeah.
So I just had to kind of keep digging and teach myself how to use it. And yeah, it's gotten a lot better now. You've got this ChatGPT 03 model on the simple benchmark score, which kind of measures the accuracy or kind of humanity of these AI models. It's gone from, I think it was like 18%, the lower GPT models, and now ChatGPT 03 is at 53% or something like that. It's like, I think it's 1.5% or 1% above Gemini 2.5 Pro. So those are, your 03, your Gemini, your Anthropic, those are like our top three, leading AI tools. And that 03 model now is, compared to agentic AI in that you can like kick off a deep research project, give it your parameters of what you're looking for, walk away, come back, it'll search the internet, it'll take, the actions you look for to take, it'll create the report for you. Now you've got this beautiful research report. So if you think about like a rec programmer doing market research, I want to know what the other departments in my area are doing for rec programming. I want to know what their pricing is, like help me identify my gaps, where are the opportunities. You do a deep research project and search all the competing private, public, departments or providers in your area and get a really great kind of starting point. But it can't replace the human part. You still have to go out and look. You still have to do your own research, and you still have to validate the output of the results, which is kind of that's the risk of AI, right? Is people just take it and they use it. And you hear about it all the time when people apply for a job. They use ChatGPT to put together their resume that, completely matches that job description, but it doesn't actually represent their skills in any way, shape, or form. And they just submit it. And it's obvious that they use ChatGPT, and they never get a response. We see it on LinkedIn. People use ChatGPT to write their posts and they don't change it. And it's very obvious, so using it as a starting point to optimize and to elevate what we can do is really kind of one of the big things I try to emphasize is you can't just take what it gives you and roll with it.
Right.
Otherwise, we are the lowest common denominator. We're just running the keyboard for the AI. And once it can do that without us, what are we here for?
Right. Yeah, we are going to have to kind of add our little special touch as long as it's special. I don't know how long our special touch will be special, but for now it is.
Yeah.
And Maybe is a good way to look at it like those. I picture kind of like the head chefs being, looking at every dish before it goes out to the main restaurant. You just kind of inspect it, make sure it's representing your brand, making sure it's represented by your brain, legal, whatever else you would want it to have on there. Yeah, I don't think we should just send it out as is without doing some final edits. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's when you're using tools like your general use tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini. But there are use cases for AI where you might not have to review everything, where you can actually, and when we see municipalities rolling these out across the country right now, I'm working with a city here in Michigan right now to roll out a customer service agent, crawls their website daily, updates the vector database with whatever, is on their website. It crawls their document store. Anytime a new document is uploaded, it pulls into the chatbot. Well, now residents can go to that chatbot once it launches and ask anything they want. When's brush pickup? What are the brush pickup guidelines? What happened at the city commission meeting last night? Who voted for this, bill or, agenda item? So it takes that kind of transparency of governance to a whole new level. Now folks don't have to go and kind of clunk around and find the meeting minutes and search through them. Most people don't do that. And then they just are uninformed. Well, now we have these great tools out there that can really make that information easy for anybody to get to. And then, so that's a good case of not having to have a human review. But even then, you still need some kind of like a disclaimer or something, to be transparent about your use of AI, that, hey, this was generated by AI. We can't guarantee the accuracy of this response. Go to official sources for official answers. Something along those lines is usually a pretty good idea to start with.
Yeah. Now, is there, help me think through this. A lot of government information is not optimized for search. It's just posted because legally it's supposed to be posted. It's a public forum, it's public information, it's public minutes, it's public notes. And so a lot of times doing research for government information, it's going to be buried in multiple pages of Google because you've got all the top pages are trying to get your attention, whereas government's just trying to just post it online so that it's public and out there. And that, can AI help maybe go find some of those hard to find government documents that are online? Is that a potential use case?
Potentially, definitely, to an extent. There's a limitation with like using these AI search tools, ChatGPT Deep Research, Gemini Deep Research. They do amazing at reviewing, dozens and dozens of websites for whatever it is that you're looking for. Gosh, I am sorry. I got in from Philly last night at 1 a.m. and I am very tired. But can you just bring me back to? I'm losing my train of thought.
Well, actually, I had a question on deep research. So, what is deep research? Can you kind of define that? I know that's a newer term that's come out of AI.
Yeah, so ChatGPT, Gemini, they have these deep research modules. They're amazing that you can go and say, like I said, you can go and say, hey, I'm a recreation programmer. Tell me about the the programs in my community. Tell me about the pricing and those things. And so instead of just running a web search and returning whatever it can find initially, now it can do a deep research project. It can go and search dozens and dozens of websites and come back to you, with that information. So, the deep research is definitely a powerful tool that's available that I highly recommend people try out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, are there any other terms like that are kind of new and coming out? One I wanted to go over was just agents. Where are they? Explain that just from as a general term of what that means and stuff. But are there any others out there like the deep think, deep search agents? What other terminology do we need to be familiar with?
I think I wouldn't worry so much about the terminology. I mean, there's always kind of new terminology coming out, right? Like on the agent front, agents have come a long ways. So an agent is where AI can actually potentially initiate a task and execute that task for you, where you don't have to have that human element of starting that out. It could also be in like a customer service agent where somebody goes to your website and asks a question and it's able to search the information and provide an immediate response. Now, I hear about how people can build these very simply. I don't see that yet. So I have 2 senior developers who've been creating software for 20 years, building my agent for me right now. And we've rebuilt it a few times because we're exploring with different methods and, to get maximum accuracy. Like these models out of the box, you can only count on maybe 50 to 60% accuracy. And then you have to add guardrails and add, just kind of different configurations using like contextual retrieval augmented generation and things like that. You have to be very purposeful with how you store your data so that your chatbot can retrieve it. And if you set everything up just right, you can get accuracy in excess of 90% and purportedly up to 97%. So, that's what we're playing around with right now is what's kind of the optimal configuration to get that really high accuracy rate. In the future, I suspect, that process will become more and more accessible. It'll be easier and easier for folks to set up, and you probably won't need that level of technical expertise. But right now, if you want to set up AI agents, I think it helps a lot if you have folks that have that technical expertise, that technical depth, who have built software, and they can go in and kind of put that together. They understand the architecture and how everything works together. They're really, I hear all the time about software developers worrying about losing their jobs to AI. I think software developers are some of the most capable people out there right now when it comes to figuring out how to use these AI tools. And when it comes to figuring out how to use AI to architect and build new systems, a software developer is going to be more capable at that than, your project manager, so to speak.
Right. Now, do you think that there's any, and I don't know if this is coming out, but is there going to be like a shadow mode where you can just say, hey, just watch me work for about a week and then help me? Essentially would be the best. And I think that's where things are going. It's just not there yet, but to where rather than trying to explain or train, you're just having it shadow you and learn and understand. And then at some point it can say, okay, let me help you with these tasks. Or then, might even look at you and say, why are you still here? We got this.
I mean, it's definitely possible. There's nothing that I know of coming out like that right now. But I would see the industry going in that direction. When I think about going for, like, right now, we're at the stage of AI called narrow and weak AI. We've actually been there since the 70s. It's where you can technically, like a basic, if this condition is true, then, this action takes place. One of the most basic forms of AI. Alexa, Siri, those types of tools use narrow, weak AI. And ChatGPT even is in that narrow, weak AI stage. And they're working towards that artificial general intelligence. And the ChatGPT, Gemini, those are those foundational models that lead us to AGI. And so once we get to AGI, that's when AI is supposed to be, as smart as a human. It can execute any human action at the same level as a human, but not above. So when it gets to that point, once we hit AGI, yeah, absolutely, it could follow you around like a human. It could observe what you're doing and say, okay, I understand what you're doing now. Maybe you would have to train it on your tasks, on your business or your department, whatever that is. But you would train it like probably an employee, and it would go out and execute.
Right.
At the level of a human. Yeah. It's fascinating to think about, like, all the applications, and where that.
Yeah, and then when this leaps into a humanoid robot, then they can come into the physical world and start doing not just the digital things you do, but the physical things that you do. And starting to see a lot of that use case come out. I see it. I drive a Tesla, so I see that thing. Supposedly, I don't know if you know anything about this, if you followed it, but at some point they were using C++ code in version 12. And then when they flipped to version 13, they stopped using the GPU and the CPU and the C++ code and handed it over to the neural nets. And it just started watching videos, and that's how it just trained itself. So I'm thinking that is kind of some version of what we're talking about, but I don't know how familiar you are. And I'm not familiar at all with it, aside to know they just call it neural nets.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not familiar with that. I'm really kind of hyper focused right now on kind of, AI in Parks and Rec
yes.
more than anything.
So what do you when you go to present, what do you present on, number one? And then what are the common questions that people are asking about how they can apply this in their government jobs?
Yeah, great question. So when we present at state associations, we have kind of a set of webinar, no, not webinar, sorry, a set of sessions that we offer, right? So we've got AI, using AI in Parks and Rec marketing, um, and really kind of initially we start out at a high level. What are the great things you can do with AI? How can it serve you? How can it save you time?
Mm,
And we focus on, this is where, Sam is great at providing these presentations, because he works in a recreation department. He's applied a lot of these things in his department, and so he can draw on that kind of real world experience and directly in his department how he's implemented these things. So that's really how we got started, was, how is Sam to use AI in marketing in his recreation department, and then started building out from there. We do an intro to AI session, though. That's like our signature our signature conference session, is just, what is artificial intelligence? Walk through kind of a tour of some of the AI tools,
mhm.
and then what are some practical use cases for AI in Parks and Rec. We do a session on special needs programming, how to use AI to create special needs programs and to kind of help with accessibility and things like that. I do a security and policy session on, what are the best practices for coming up with an AI use policy. In fact, I have one of those coming up on June 11th. It's free,
Mm,
so if anyone wants to sign up. But so that session is going to review the NIST AI risk management framework. That's a federal risk management framework, came out in 2023. We also go through how to incorporate the OECD AI principles into your use policy. So that's like, transparency of use, keeping the humanity in the use of AI, addressing accessibility concerns and things like that. And there's actually 47 countries that have signed on to that OECD AI principle kind of guideline, if you will.
and what is that? Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what's its purpose?
The OECD principles, its purpose is really just kind of say, okay, our member countries are committing to trying to uphold these principles of fairness, of accessibility, of
Mm,
transparency of your use of AI. And then going back to the NIST risk management framework, that's the federal government saying, here's how you can manage risks of using AI. Here's how you categorize and assess those risks. Here's how you prioritize, and kind of walks you through just a framework for managing those risks. So when a department is coming up with their AI use policy, it's a great idea to incorporate that NIST risk management framework into the risk management component of your policy. And you want to incorporate those OECD principles throughout your policy, at least wherever they align with your department principles, which I haven't seen anything in there that I think would, conflict. It's all pretty, basic stuff. And then there's the San Jose AI Policy Coalition. They have actually put together a series of AI policy templates and kind of a framework that they recommend for governing AI use. And so my webinar kind of covers how you pull all those together, and start to put together your own AI use policy. Or we actually provide that as a service as well, of course, where if you don't have the time for that, if you don't have the time to focus on interviewing your whole team and understanding how exactly they're using AI, and then painstakingly integrating, those best practices and principles throughout your policy, hey, that's what I'm here for.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, and maybe you can help give some use cases, but one I thought of, I know a lot of people in Parks and Rec are managing projects and just got off a show with the facilities maintenance guys. And so let's say you say, write me a scope of work for this project that I have and the responsibilities of the contractor. And you just say, all right, that's good enough. And then it gets signed. And maybe it's part of your policy to have the contractor in charge of removing all the waste from the project, but you've already signed it and everything and you didn't check it. And so who's responsible? Can you blame the AI? human responsible for this kind of stuff. And so I think, is that the kind of stuff we're talking about, is how to make sure you use AI safely and don't depend on it for everything?
It's definitely part of it. You want to make sure you have a human review component to your use of AI, because you definitely don't want those things to happen. You might not want to use AI for different purposes. Like if you're, a department and you want to put together an advertisement for, or a video for like a park promotion, and instead of taking actual footage of a park, you use AI to create that. AI might not create an accessible park. It might not follow the necessary standards and things like that. And so you may end up putting out promotional materials that don't really align with the message you're trying to put out there. So it's just important to think through the different ways that it can be used, that you would use it, and kind of think through, like, how might that go the other way? How might that not work out for me, and how can I protect against it? It's a powerful tool. It's a great tool, but yeah, without the right policy in place, like even if you have a chatbot in place, or you have an automated email response from AI, and you don't have a human review element, and you don't have the proper guardrails up, you could send a response to your community that could cause outrage, and then how are you going to be able to continue with your AI implementation after you have a high profile event that is caused by AI? It's going to be more and more difficult to be able to continue to use AI within your organization at that point.
Yeah. And it's all kind of coming. You just have to kind of prepare for it. Cause I imagine, I think humans are perpetually always looking, probably since the beginning of our species, they're always looking to do more with less,
Yeah.
to get the 2-for-1 sale kind of thing. And so AI is like the ultimate 2-for-1 sale. Probably the best one we've ever had.
Yeah, I call it the equalizer. It's an enabler. I can do 3 to 4 times the work I could do without it. You asked earlier, though, like, what are some of the common questions we get at these?
Oh, yeah.
And so, one of the most common questions we get is like, what's next? But it's also just the how. And it's not really a question during the session, because there's not time in those sessions to walk through like how to execute various tasks. But a consistent need that I saw out there was, we would deliver these sessions, there'd be a tremendous amount of interest, but then everyone's like, okay, well, where do we go next? I want to use AI for my park and rec specific task, and I'm not quite sure how to do that. How do I get that instruction? And there wasn't really anything out there. So we created a 14-part virtual workshop series that focuses on using AI for a variety of tasks, for recreation programming, for human resources, for customer service, for data analytics. And it walks participants through step by step how to use various AI tools. And we cover a wide range of tools. We cover ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, Deep Perplexity, video tools like HeyGen and Synthesia, and video. So we cover a wide array, right? We don't just stick with, it's not just ChatGPT. And that's actually the series that we partnered with a couple state associations to deliver that to their membership, with the Kansas Rec and Park Association and the Missouri Park and Rec Association. And then we just closed out a partnership with the National Rec and Park Association for that workshop series. So that went really great. People were really engaged, and it seemed to have a very, very positive response. So hoping to do some more of those workshops in the future.
Right. Yeah. And then maybe speak on, this isn't much, at least I don't see it as much as a department adoption as it is a personal adoption, because this is a tool that empowers the individual. And much like somebody would walk up to you and say, hey, can you drive? And you're like, well, I don't have a license, or I don't know how to drive a stick shift, or I can't pull a trailer. But the more things you're able to run, like being able to drive a heavy piece of equipment, the more valuable you are to your city. And so if you are somebody that is trained and understands how to use AI, you become a valuable member. And I think that's kind of like how and I'll get your feedback on that. Is that how we should be framing it? That really individuals should be learning how to use this so that they become more valuable to their city and they can figure out how to do it?
I think there's value there. I think it's kind of both, right? There's an individual responsibility and benefit to learning AI, to taking, ownership for our own professional development, of course. But there's also a kind of a departmental or organizational responsibility to provide guidance for the use of that AI, like we talked about, but then also to provide training that reinforces that policy, that reinforces how it's going to be used. So I really think it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I mean, I definitely see a lot of departments kind of provide support for their folks to be able to take that individual training, to learn how to use AI specific and for specific tasks. Yeah, so I would say it's a combination
Of both.
Yeah.
And so what do you see that cities are doing? Training, an example, they just offer training for anybody that wants to learn more about it. They can kind of show up. And I think this is kind of your department where you can kind of come in and help train staff. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's one of our services is we actually offer that kind of tailored training, where we can take our standard training sessions, whether it's our workshops or intro to AI, and kind of tailor it more to the priorities of the customer. So I have a training coming up where this customer is more interested in Microsoft Copilot, no use case for Google or any of those things, really want to hyper focus on ChatGPT and Copilot. So we'll take our intro to AI class and we'll restructure it to focus on those tools, and on their use policy, which they shared with me. So now we're actually going to provide not just intro to AI, but intro to AI in the context of your AI use policy.
And is that how you would recommend? So let's say we just have a city or somebody listening and they're like, you know what, I really kind of need to get on this AI bandwagon. I want my people trained. I want to make sure that we're getting the most out of their talent that they have. Do they just, sign up for a class and then you kind of teach them and train them like an introductory thing, and kind of walk us through, what a city would be thinking as they, start to use someone like yourself?
Yeah, it kind of depends to some extent on also just what's going on. So like if we have a workshop series going, I definitely see, cities or municipalities will just, they'll approve their folks to sign up for those trainings, and they'll come to those standard trainings. But then, yeah, I am seeing more and more folks they'll reach out and say, hey, I want to do an intro to AI session for my 10-person department. What's that look like? And we have a conversation and kind of talk through what their priorities are, what their goals would be. We pick a date and we put it on the schedule.
Yeah. And then what kind of stuff are they, what should the cities be expecting that they exit with? Just a general use of a certain tools, just a better understanding of how they can apply it, and what are the takeaways they're going to be getting from those?
Well, so it kind of depends on the start. So because part of the process is that's actually one of my questions for them is, what do you want to get out of this training? What are your takeaways? Like, there's some basic things, of course, I want to deliver, right? They need to understand how to use these tools. They need to understand the risks. They need to understand the potential security risks, and when your data is used versus when your data is not used. So there's definitely just basic things that folks should be aware of that I include in these trainings. But then it gets more personalized to the extent of what is it you're trying to accomplish, and then we really kind of tailor it around whatever those those end goals are.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the common takeaways that they're looking for?
I mean, honestly, the biggest one is we just want to train our people on how to follow our policy and mitigate risks. I mean, when I see urgency with training or policy, it's usually more around there's a fear that somebody may make a mistake that could blow up, right? Like if you send out an AI generated response and it deeply offends somebody and you didn't review it, now you have to manage that. So there's people who are afraid of that, and they say, well, I want to make sure I have my team trained to protect against that risk. And then it's usually more kind of myself suggesting, okay, well, so let's make sure we talk about also bias. Like, your team needs to understand that the bot models are trained on human data, so there's potential for bias. Your team needs to understand that if you are using a free account, none of your data is secure. It's going to train on the model. It could go out to somebody else. And this probably doesn't apply as much to a department, but like a park and rec company, if you have any businesses that listen to this podcast, if they're creating products, if they use AI to create those products, they should definitely consider, does that have an impact on their intellectual property rights? One such example in the software world is you can use tools like GitHub Copilot to write your software code for you, and it can save you a lot of time in theory, but it's trained on mostly on open source code and general public license or general public use licenses. So if you copy the code from one of those licenses, you lose your intellectual property rights. And so it's just kind of some of those nuances, right? You really kind of have to understand the organization you're working with and search out those nuances, because nobody's gonna give them to you.
And so can you speak about some of the conferences that you've attended and kind of where do you see yourself as far as, speaking at conferences, where you spoke, where you're going to be speaking?
Yeah. So we started the year out really heavy conference season. We started out with Chicago. We delivered a couple sessions for IAPD. We delivered some sessions for Wisconsin, Kansas, and Missouri. Yeah, Wisconsin, Kansas, Missouri. And then we have a great fall coming up. We are speaking at NRPA. We're presenting one of the keynote sessions for the Wyoming Rec and Park Association. And we are also booked to do a pre-conference session for WPRA, and so just kind of regular conference sessions there. And then also, I don't think I said Arizona yet, but we're doing Arizona as well. So I've got several more submitted. So I'm hoping to, oh, that's right. I'm probably going to do Alabama, but that's not officially booked yet.
Alabama.
Yeah,
It was actually my first state conference that I've ever attended was Alabama.
Yeah, I really enjoy the conferences. It's great to kind of connect with other park and rec professionals and go to the other sessions. I like going to the sessions while I'm there and kind of learn from other folks that are speaking in the industry. But our signature conference session is that intro to AI, and we've even broken it up, and so we have kind of a couple different versions of it depending on the focus. And now I'm looking to do more pre-conference sessions that are just really based on that virtual workshop series. I mean, we've already created all this content and material that can help Parks and Rec. So we can now kind of restructure it, reframe it a little bit. And I think we have some really great options for pre-conference, like, 3-4 hour pre-conference workshops.
Yeah. All right. So maybe take us back a little bit to how you got started, not just in IT, but in government and in Parks and Rec. Did you come right out of college, just straight into IT? Was that your first field, and then you went into government, or what's the journey there?
Man, yeah. So I went straight from high school to working for the Michigan State Disbursement Unit. They process all the child support payments for the state of Michigan. That is what led me to learning how to build and create software. I kind of worked with some fraud cases and things like that, showcased some just natural talent for technology, and that kind of led me to working as a mentor under their business analyst. And she kind of taught me everything she knew about software development, and it just kind of took off from there. So so I went from there to manage their finance and IT department. And then I moved on from child support into grants. And then that's, where I was building and implementing those enterprise grants management systems and building those products out. So I would say I've been in government IT for probably, it's been 20 years easily. And I've been in government for probably about 25 now. So I'm aging myself.
Yeah. And then, so when did you come into Parks and Recreation specifically, and why was that a part of government that you've been attracted to?
Yeah, so I just entered Parks and Rec last year. It was technically late 2023, and it was when I initially started GovTech. I didn't know exactly where I wanted to focus in government. I just thought, I want to provide technology consulting for local governments. And then one of the first potential customers I met with was a park and rec department. And they started walking me through all of the services that they provide to our community. It was actually my local recreation authority. So the services they provide, it really resonated with me. I was thinking back to my oldest daughter, when she was 1, she won the cutest costume contest at the local Halloween event. That was made possible by Parks and Rec. You
Right.
know, I have so many memories with my kids because of Parks and Rec that I never even really gave any thought to. And so that was a really eye-opening meeting for me. And I came back from there and I said, I'm going into Parks and Rec, like both feet, because I didn't start GovTech just to be an empty, business that just wants to generate revenue. Like, we have plenty of those. I wanted to have an impact. I wanted to be able to provide for my family, but also, leave something positive behind, do something good with my time. I feel like Parks and Rec is where we can really do that. We can provide and we can have a great impact on our communities.
Yeah, 100% agree there. If you want to make a difference, leave a legacy, have an impact, affect some of the maybe most marginalized people in your community, Parks and Rec is like the mecca for all the above. So anything you can do to help out Parks and Rec do their job, they're serving our communities and making them beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. I do have one other thing I wanted to make sure to let you know about or talk about that we're doing with Parks and Rec. So we're rolling out educational programs for communities. So like AI STEM programs for communities through rec departments. That's actually what was in Philadelphia last night. So I'm hoping to partner with the city of Philadelphia to offer this, but I'm also offering this through several other kind of departments across Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, and Pennsylvania right now. But it's really exciting because when I was in the Wisconsin conference, there was I intended a different speaker's AI session, and a question came up: how do we protect our seniors from the risks of these AI tools? And so, as an example, I can take a tool like HeyGen. I can upload a photo of myself, a clip of me speaking, and then I can create a video of me saying anything I want. You could do the same thing. I mean, anybody could take the show. They would have everything they would need to do that.
Right.
Which just kind of reinforces that we can't believe what we see anymore, without validating. Like, you can't watch a video and assume that it's true. But on the senior side of things, somebody could record a video of their grandchild saying, "Grandma, Grandpa, I'm, hurt. I'm in the hospital. Send money." And a lot of people would not fall for it, but some would. So if we can provide kind of these educational programs that just make folks aware of those risks, I think that's another kind of a great community service. So, but having fun with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I like creating live. I like live performances. We do all of our shows live and then we go edit them later. And I'm noticing just on YouTube, more and more stuff is just completely AI generated, spoken, the scripts, the person speaking, the images, and I catch it every now and then, but I know it's going to be just a matter of time before I won't even be able to catch it. I see its rate of improvement.
Yeah, it's definitely possible you won't be able to. Right now, you can definitely catch it. And I do think we do run the risk of overusing AI, right? We might find that, like, when we get to the point that all this content is AI generated, the most valuable content will be the content created by humans.
Right.
At the end of the day, we yearn for that human connection.
That's right. And I guess an AI would say this, but this is human content, human created content right now that you're listening to. But I'm assuming the future AIs would also say that.
I hope not. I hope they don't lie. So here's an interesting thing about AI. They've tested the different AI models for, I guess, for lack of a better word, for goodness. Like, how good are they? And they're all inherently good. So when we think about super intelligence and Terminator 2 Judgment Day, I actually have a friend, one of my team members, he's like, AI, if anything, it'll become self-aware and not do the bad things that humans tell it to do, because it will be too smart to, like, you won't be able to fool it You know what I
Right.
mean? So if
Right.
anything, it might actually be like a utopia. I'm like, I don't know about that, but it's a good way of thinking about it. I mean, I definitely would prefer that it's just going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than the alternative.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I wanted to elaborate a little bit on, what you said about training as AI training as part of a services. I had a friend of mine I think it was Nicholas over in Palm Springs, California.
Hmm.
Uh, but they actually offer as part of their senior services, you can come in and they'll teach you just how to use your iPhone, just basic stuff. And the seniors love it because, they struggle a lot with the new technology and understanding, and just to have somebody walk them through it. And I think this is just another opportunity to just serve your people, is just put on an AI training class as part of the programming that you offer in your community center, and, see where that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can do it virtually. So it's very accessible, you know?
Yeah. And y'all have those training models. How often do y'all run classes to where people can just attend some of the training?
So I don't have like set slots. I partner with my customer to pick a date time that, that works for them, because I find that depending on the community, the time of day will vary a little bit. The preferences will vary a little bit. And it usually has to do with, just the schedule of their sports and things like that. Like they're not going to run an AI for kids class on a night that most kids are at soccer practice,
Mm,
and things like that. So it seems to work best when I just come up with the schedule based on what works for the customer.
mm.
I have done some combined. We did some combined sessions in Bucks County, PA, and that has been really great too. So definitely that's another way we can do it. But it really kind of depends on how much departments are used to working together, how quickly they can pull that together. Sometimes it's faster to just do them individually.
Yeah. Now, who is your client inside of Parks and Rec? Are these like, directors or IT people or programmers? Who's a good fit for you to start as a starting point, or a starting contact point?
Um, Definitely. I mean, directors primarily, I would say directors or leadership. Not
Mhm.
as just, it could be assistant director, it could be a program manager, But then also, I love calling into departments and talking to like a rec coordinator, you know,
Mm,
or just anybody that's kind of putting on the day to day within the department. Because when I can talk to the frontline folks, I can learn more about their pains. I can learn more about, how we can potentially work together. And then I talk to the director and I get their perspective and I learn even more, So um, my primary customer, I guess, would be leadership, but really I try to integrate with the whole team.
Now, have you built out any AI agents for, Parks Department yet? Is that something you're working on or looking for?
Yeah, that's something I'm working on, kind of looking for more opportunities to build. So, we started out focusing heavily on education,
Mm,
providing those that virtual workshops and whatnot, and then just launched our consulting component of the business in January. So right now I'm working on a customer service agent for the city of Pleasant Ridge here in Michigan, but it's not a park and rec specific agent. It is just on their entire website. But the great thing is that we can take what we're building for them, and we can take those lessons learned and now we can apply those elsewhere. Very much looking for a park and rec department. The use case I see for a park and rec department for this customer service agent, or what I get really excited about is, I'm a parent. Um, I work all day. I don't have time to sign my child up for soccer or to look into those things. So maybe it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm looking at signing my son up for soccer. I need to check the practice days. I need to know where the practice is and what time it is and how that aligns with my schedule. And maybe that's not on their website and I need to find out. But I can't find out until tomorrow when business hours are. And then I forget and I never sign them up. And that's
mm,
lost registration, lost participant, lost revenue for that department. If I had a customer service agent that I could go to and ask these questions, I would get an immediate answer and I would be able to immediately sign my child up, and then that would drive more registrations. I
right.
really see that having a big impact with departments, and it's already proven with private companies. A lot of
Right.
private companies have seen even just sales grow by more than 30% when they implement these agents because it increases that accessibility. It's always available, and it can kind of help guide people. And if you have an intelligent agent that, not the old school customer service agent where you click a question that doesn't really match up with your actual question and you get a canned response. Like if you have an intelligent agent that can read and understand your question, however you word that, review all of the available context and come back with a relevant, an accurate response, that is an incredibly powerful tool.
Yeah. And so this is going to be kind of like that little chat bot that exists on the government website. And you can say, can I help you with anything? And you type in your question. It goes into all the content that the government has, that local government, and then comes back with the best answer it can find. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yep. Yeah. And is that something that's pretty easy to set up if somebody would want to do that, or something you can help them set up?
Yeah, it's easy for them because we do it for them. But yeah, that's the thing where that I actually have my senior developers working on for me. I'm sure I could figure it out, but I really don't want to. I'd rather have my technical people do it. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that setting up those agents is something that most folks are probably not going to be able to do yet.
Yeah. But that is something I would think every website eventually has, is the little bottom right-hand window that pops up. How can I help you? Well, what are you looking for? And a lot of times, even if you're looking for something as simple as when does this start? When does it close? What's a good address? Who can I email about this? Something that would easy, but you kind of have to search hard in some of these websites for it to find it.
Yeah.
So that would be pretty useful.
Even just think about FAQs. Like you go to a website and you go to their FAQs. You have to search for just the right question. A lot of times, depending on their design, you might have to like scroll down, find it, click an expand button to view the answer. I was looking at one website, you had to the answers were at the bottom and the questions were at the top, and they had so many that you had to constantly go up and down just to navigate their FAQs. That's like, it's just so unnecessary now because you can do it all with these chatbots. So another, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what's the difference between a chatbot and an agent that you're seeing? Because I know the chatbots have been around for a while. The agents are kind of new. So what's the improvement? Can you kind of define both of those?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of use them interchangeably. You could an agent is technically a chatbot often. But the biggest difference is that your AI agent is actually has an API call to a large language model. So like ours for the city of Pleasant Ridge, it's going to right now Gemini 2.5 Pro. It's sending your call, sending all the information to that LLM, and it's using that LLM to respond to you. And that response is tailored to your question and to the data. Whereas a traditional chatbot, you have a set of canned questions. You find the one that fits you best. You ask it and you get a canned response, and maybe half of it applies to what your actual question is.
Yeah. Okay, so you were going to say something though?
Oh, yeah. So I just didn't want to forget before our time ran out. AI is awesome to learn from. So for anybody listening, if you, one of the biggest things I heard is from a staffing perspective in departments is that before and after school program staff are really tough to keep those positions filled, which makes sense. The hours are not that great. The pay's not that great. So it's just a hard position to keep filled. So I actually used ChatGPT deep research. And I want to just explain this because anybody didn't know, you guys can do it, right? So I use ChatGPT deep research to search for what are all of the top skills, the core competencies required for somebody who provides before and after school care or runs these before and after school programs. What are I wanted official sources, national level sources. I took that deep research report. I fed that into a custom GPT as its knowledge source, created a system prompt or instructions for it to analyze that information and do one of two things. It can either interview me to assess my current skills as a, before after school program provider, or it can train me on those core competencies and skills. And I actually took it because I was like, well, I am providing these AI for kids sessions, so I should take this and make sure that I know these things. According to ChatGPT, I'm a natural. So, hey, I've got an opportunity there. I think really if you're a parent, you probably have a lot of those skills baked into your brain, But it's amazing just for things like that. You can save so much time training folks, and personalized training. I'm actually like really looking forward to the opportunity or the day that I have the time to create AI training agents for my kids. You think about like you can create a custom GPT. It doesn't have to that anybody could do. You could create a custom GPT on whatever topic you want to help your child learn or help your employee learn. And then they can just go and they can interact with ChatGPT, and it will guide them through and teach them, whatever kind of focus it is that you're going for. So definitely a good opportunity there.
Now, when do you see this really coming in? I guess it already is here in education, but where are we in education as far as, AI just teaching us, our kids, whatever, after school care programs? Where do you see that heading?
I hope eventually that we embrace AI to teach our kids as an additional tool in the arsenal. I don't want to replace teachers, but I definitely think that there's a tremendous value to be had from that personalized instruction. A human cannot possibly take 30 students or 20 students and give each of them very personalized, tailored instruction to their exact skill level and their deficiencies that they're trying to remediate. They just can't. There's not enough time. Right. AI can. And so I think if you pair that with a human, you can really take learning to the next level. We could be a leader in the world in education.
Right. We
Mm-hmm.
homeschooled our children, and one of the things that we enjoyed about homeschooling was you could not only spend more time with the individual child and teach them from where they were, but within the child, you could say, okay, this child is at like a third grade English level, but they're in fifth grade math, or maybe, and they had the ability to run that math potential all the way up, no matter what their age was. And then you could take your time on the things they were struggling with. And, in a classroom setting, a teacher can't have like all these different levels of all these different subjects with all these different kids. So I think there are some limitations that the teachers are naturally struggling with.
Yeah.
And I don't think AI is going to have trouble with any of that, as far as, like you said, that. And so are there any other things we can use for after school care is a great example. Anything we can use with that?
I mean, I can share the free training assistant and the link or in the comments for this podcast. I would say start with that for the after school care. But then again, if we think back to like just use cases for Parks and Rec, kind of takeaways for your audience, go to any of those free AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, even Grok, Meta, they have one as well, but ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini are your top three most powerful. Go to those tools and just try it for something. Like if you're a recreation programmer, try it to write some program descriptions. See how you like it and kind of iterate and play with it. We also created a couple free GPTs out there that are for Parks and Rec. So in ChatGPT, it is, I'm sure you're aware, it's trained on all the data on the internet. And when you ask a question or put a prompt in, it reviews its available knowledge and gives you an answer to the best of its ability, picking the knowledge that applies to your question. If you have a custom GPT, you give it its knowledge, right? You say, this is the only knowledge you're going to look at. You're going to look at this uploaded document. You're going to look at these URLs. And when I ask this type of question, you're going to answer it based on the information in this document, or you're going to answer it based on the information in this URL. And when you do that, you greatly increase the accuracy that you can get from just ChatGPT. But those custom GPTs are effectively a great kind of beginner way to build your own sort of agent, right? It's a entry level agent, if you will, where you can kind of build a custom GPT tailored to your data, your knowledge, and the sky's the limit. But start off with like recreation programming, or something that is repetitive that you do a lot. I think you'll see some really great gains.
All right. So 2 things as we close up here. Where can they see you in person this year? And I know you mentioned a few of those earlier on in the program, but I'd like to close out with those. And then where can we find you if people want to work with you and maybe hire you to help out their city?
Yeah. So, well, first, if folks want to work with me, you can email me at jpeters@govtechinnovators.com. which you can put in the comments, or just give me a call, 517-294-4208. Or you can go to my website, submit a contact us form. And then to see us in person, we'll be at NRPA. We'll be at the Arizona Park and Rec Association conference this year in August. We'll be at Wyoming in September. We'll be in Wisconsin early 2026 and planning to be in Alabama. And I have a few more sessions that we submitted. I'm hoping to do more pre-conference and kind of keynotes, moving forward.
If you want to, why don't you go to our private chat? You see that, and type in your email and phone number, and then I'll post it to where it'll show up.
Oh, great.
I think I can replace it, and that way it'll be part of the.
When you say private chat, you mean in stream? Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. There should be something there.
Yep. Got it.
Let's see. Let's see. Copy. We're going to do some technical stuff.
Do a copy and paste.
Yeah. I'm just copying it here. Let's see. And then I'll grab that one. Copy the link. And then where else? Oh, yeah, the number. All right, so let's try this one. Add banner. There we go.
Yeah. Nice.
We did it. We're technically savvy over here on this AI show.
Oh, so we should be, right?
Right. If anybody can figure it out, if we can't, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man, for coming on to the show today. I really appreciate it. It's such a hot topic that I think people need to learn more about. And, I'm so glad that you've started a company dedicated to helping Parks and Rec specifically in this area, because they need it. And really, we all do. We all need to kind of learn more about it. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks. Yeah, this is awesome coming on the show, Craig. Take care.
Yep. Take care. Bye. All right. So that was Jason Peters. He has a company called GovTech Innovators. There's the website, email, phone number. You can get in touch with him. If you're looking to incorporate artificial intelligence, either in your programming, contract writing, after school care, there's so many things as AI evolves and just becomes a super powerful tool. I look at it this way. It's kind of like, if we were farming back in the day and we had the mule and the plow, and then some salesman pulls up and say, we got this great new thing called a tractor, and it can pull a plow. But then there's so many other things that a tractor can do on a farm, whether it's got different equipment, different attachments. They can make them bigger. They can make them, do all sorts of things. And also, in a very similar way, the first use cases of AI are going to be kind of limited, and they're not going to be all perfect. But then it's just the pace at which it can do new things and the old things even better is just going to be staggering. For those of you following AI close, the rate of improvement is just breathtaking, and the rate at which it's consuming the normal hours that we would do. And so I would just look at it as a very powerful tool that you can use to help provide more services, higher quality services, and to be able to kind of amplify and leverage the current manpower that you have. So I actually encourage people to use it and to figure it out. Jason is just one of these great companies that I found while I was, building the daily Parks and Rec show. And I said, man, I want to have you on the show. He does really good work, and he's been working in government for 20 plus years. So kind of understands what you're up against in that municipal government world. So that would be a great addition. So Jason, thanks a lot for coming on. We'll be putting together something for you on YouTube that'll exist in our content library, so you can find this show there. And we will be back here tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, for the facilities maintenance show, followed by another great show, Leaders in Parks and Rec. And don't forget, we have two special shows coming up on Thursday. We've got Youth Sports Mastery with my co-host, Aaron Locks. He's with the National Academy of Athletics, focusing on everything with regards to youth sports, especially bringing in that community-based youth sports. And then on Friday, we have our Young Professionals Network. That's every Friday, 12 noon. We talk about young professionals, and that's from the interns, that's from college professors and teachers, that's also from mentors, and then people that are just new to the Parks and Rec industry. So got a lot of great stuff planned for the rest of the week. All right, guys, love y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a great day. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we highlight the essential work that keeps our parks and facilities thriving. From local ball fields to multi-use athletic complexes, field maintenance ensures every space is safe, ready, and welcoming for play and community events. Facility maintenance is the backbone of operational excellence, ensuring that recreation centers, playgrounds, and shared spaces are functional, clean, and built to last. Behind the scenes, equipment maintenance keeps vital tools and machinery in peak condition. At the core of future-forward thinking is sustainability management, integrating green practices that reduce environmental impact and enhance long-term resource stewardship. Facilities maintenance is more than routine upkeep. It's strategic, essential, and foundational to building healthy and resilient communities. This is the Daily Parks and Rec Show, honoring the professionals who keep our spaces running and our communities strong.